this juggling tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to juggle 4 balls. Juggling 4 balls looks something like this. Now let's get started. Before you get started into learning how to juggle 4 balls, you got to make sure that you have a good quality set of juggling balls. The juggling balls I recommend are the fly juggling balls, and the link to those juggling balls are in the description. But if you already have a good set of juggling balls, let's get into learning how to juggle 4 balls. Before you learn how to juggle 4 balls, you got to make sure you have a solid 3-ball cascade. So if you're not comfortable juggling 3 balls, then you got to make sure you learn how to juggle 3 balls before watching this tutorial. And also, you don't just want to skip to 4 balls right after learning 3 balls, so you want to make sure you have some basic 3-ball tricks down. So you should probably be able to do some tricks involving the reverse throw, such as the half shower, juggler's tennis, and reverse throw. And you should just learn a bunch of different basic 3-ball tricks before jumping to learning how to juggle 4 balls. But if you already can juggle 3 balls and you know some basic 3-ball tricks, then let's get started into learning how to juggle 4 balls. Before you learn how to juggle 4 balls, you gotta know how the 4-ball fountain works. In the 4-ball fountain, the balls don't cross hands. There's 2 balls getting juggled in one hand like this, and at the same time, 2 balls are getting juggled in the opposite hand, so the balls never cross. When some people first see someone juggling 4 balls, it kind of looks like the balls are crossing, but they're actually not crossing. They're just staying in the same hand. You're just juggling 2 in one hand and 2 in the other hand. And a fountain throw is when the ball does not cross hands like this. This is a fountain throw. And a cascade throw is when the ball crosses hands like this. So that's why when you juggle 3 balls, the balls all cross. So it's called the 3-ball cascade. And in 4 balls, the balls don't cross. So it's called a fountain. And this also applies to more balls. So in 5 balls, all the balls cross. So it's called the 5-ball cascade. And in 6 balls, you're just juggling 3 balls in each hand, and the balls don't cross. So it's called the 6-ball fountain. So now that you understand what the difference between a fountain and a cascade, and you understand how the 4-ball fountain works, let's move into the first exercise on how to juggle 4 balls. One last thing is that there's 2 ways to juggle 4 balls that are the most common ways when you first learn how to juggle 4 balls. There's the synchronous fountain, where you're throwing the balls in each hand at the same time like this, and it looks like this. So you're basically doing is you're doing this in one hand, and this in the other hand, you're doing them at the same time. So you're rolling 2, and it goes in a little fountain shape like that. That's the synchronous 4-ball fountain. And the most common way when you see people juggling 4 balls is the asynchronous fountain, which looks like this. So in the synchronous, you throw the right and left at the same time. So you go right, left, right, left, right, left at the same time. And when you juggle the asynchronous fountain, you alternate hands instead of throwing them at the same time. So this is the sync like this, and then async is like this. So the async, you go right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, like this. But you're still doing the same pattern in throwing 2 balls in the left hand, like this, and 2 balls in the right hand. It's just, are you throwing the balls up at the same time or at separate times? So in this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to juggle both the synchronous 4-ball fountain and the asynchronous 4-ball fountain. For some people, when they're learning how to juggle the 4-ball fountain, they find doing async is easier. But, on the other hand, some people, like me, when I was juggling 4 balls, I found doing the sync fountain was easier. So you can just find, as you learn how to juggle 4 balls, which of the fountains is easier. But I recommend learning both of them. So even if you got the sync one down, I'd recommend learning how to do the async one too. And vice versa. So now, let's get started into learning how to juggle 4 balls. The first exercise in learning how to juggle 4 balls uses 1 ball. So drop all 3 balls. So what you're going to do is you're going to throw 1 ball in your dominant hand. And you're going to scoop the ball toward the inside and throw it toward the outside like this. And it should go in a little oval shape. So it should go inside and then outside and land back in your hand like this. So this is how all the balls in the 4-ball fountain are going to go. You're going to sweep them into the inside, and then it's going to make a little oval shape like that. And you want to make sure when you throw them, it doesn't cross the middle of your body, because you're going to have to throw the other 2 at the same time. And you want to make sure that the balls in your right hand don't cross, and the balls and your left hand don't cross. So when you're juggling 4 balls, the balls don't collide. You want to make sure they stay in the separate paths. You can see both of them stay on separate sides of this imaginary line in the middle. So when you're practicing this, make sure that the ball doesn't cross the middle of your body and it goes in this little oval shape. You want to make sure to practice that on both sides. Practice that on the left side, practice on the right side. And once this feels comfortable for you, because it's going to be a different feel for the cascade throw in the 3-ball cascade, it's different because this is a crossing throw. But this one you want to scoop toward the outside. It's also different from a reverse throw. Get used to practicing this throw until you're comfortable with it on both sides. You can move on to the next exercise. Now for this next exercise, we're going to pick up another ball. So now we have 2 balls. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your dominant hand for this exercise at first. And so you're going to throw that same fountain shape that we practiced, the little oval where it goes, scoops toward the inside, goes toward the outside, and lands in your hands like this. And we're going to take the second ball. And so we're going to throw the first one in that shape like that. And then you may remember this drill from the 3-ball tutorial if you watch my tutorial. If not, the link to that tutorial is in the description. I recommend watching that. After you throw the first one, you're going to throw the second one, you're going to let both of them drop. So it's going to look like this. 1, 2. And they're both going to go in that fountain oval shape. 1, 2. So once you get comfortable with that, you're going to catch the first one. So you're going to go 1, 2. Just let the second one drop. 1, 2. Let that second ball drop. And once you get comfortable with doing this, and you're making sure not to hesitate while throwing the second throw, then you can move on to catching both balls. So you're going to go 1, 2, and catch both. 1, 2. And once you get comfortable with this, you can practice this on the other hand, your non-dominant. And be aware, practicing this on your non-dominant hand is going to take a lot longer. When I first was learning how to juggle 4 balls, I had this really solid. But then the problem was when I tried it with my left hand, it was really hard for me to do it. So you got to make sure you get the 2-ball fountain and your left hand really solid. So you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to throw the first one and then the second one, and you're going to let both of them drop. And then eventually when you're ready, you let only one of them drop. And then eventually you can catch both. And then you can start by adding more throws. You can go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Practice that on the other side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And eventually practice adding more and more throws on both sides until eventually you've got it down on both sides. And you can do it very consistently like this. And make sure that you're not moving or throwing the balls where you have to like step and crack them. I want to make sure it's just chill and comfortable. Just do it right here. And then get comfortable. Other side. And then once you're comfortable doing this little 2-ball fountain on both sides, you can move on to the next exercise. But be aware, this is the most important part in learning how to juggle 4 balls. If you go on to the next step and you're still having trouble doing this, it's going to make learning 4 balls much harder. But if you're really comfortable with this, then the next step will be a lot easier. So make sure you get comfortable with this. You can move on to the next exercise. So for this next exercise, we're going to pick up a 3rd ball. And this exercise should look like this. So what this exercise is doing is it's basically the 4-ball fountain, but in one hand, you're only throwing 1 ball. And in the other hand, you're doing the 2 balls. So what we're going to do is you're going to first throw this ball, and then you're going to throw this ball, both in fountain. So 1, 2. And then you're going to throw this last ball. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3. Like that. And you can also practice this synchronously. So you can go these 2 at the same time. 1, 2, 3. That. So you're going to first practice this with 2 balls in your dominant and 1 ball in your non-dominant. And my dominant hand is my right hand. So I have 2 balls in my right hand, 1 ball in my left. So once you get comfortable with going 1, 2, 3, async, and 1, 2, 3, like that, then you can move on to adding another throw. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you down the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can eventually add a fifth row with comfortable. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you want to make sure on the async, you don't end up throwing them too close together. You want to make them each of them to be separate throws. So you don't want it to morph into a sync like this. Because then eventually it's going to turn into a sync. So you want to make sure they're all separate throws. And then for the sync one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once you do that, you can keep adding throws until eventually you feel comfortable with the async fountain. And you want to make sure you don't eventually morph into throwing this ball straight up like this. You want to make sure it's in the same fountain shape. And then eventually you're going to get comfortable with this one. And you want to make sure that ball, again, doesn't go straight up. And you want to make sure it goes in that fountain shape. So once you get comfortable with these two drills, the async and the sync, you can move on to doing it with your non-dominant hand. So this time, you're going to start with 2 throws. So we'll go 1, 2 for sync, and 1, 2 for async, and then add a third. And then eventually, keep adding throws until I'm comfortable with doing the async on my non-dominant side with the 2 balls, and then also my sync. And once you get comfortable with this on both sides, then you can move on to the next exercise. This next drill is very similar to the previous one. It's going to look pretty much the same, but instead of just not throwing the ball in the hand with one ball, like you normally do, you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, 3, pause, like that. You're going to add a clap. So you're going to go like this. And this is what this exercise. So this will simulate what it'll feel like to have the 4th ball. And this exercise is optional because this might feel a little bit weird. And when I learned 4 balls, I didn't do this drill and I was able to learn how to do 4 balls. So if this drill turns out to be really hard for you and you're getting really stuck, you can move on to juggling 4 balls. But if you can manage to learn how to do this, it'll make juggling 4 balls easier. But again, it might be hard for some of you guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to do that same thing. You're going to do this, and then you're just going to start adding claps. You can just start with adding 1 clap. So you can go in this, add a clap, and then go back in. And then the clap, and then eventually add 2 claps. 1, 2, eventually until you get comfortable. That, and you can also practice this on your non-dominant side. Once you get comfortable with that, you can also do it on the sync side. So you can do sync on dominant like this. And then do on non-dominant. And once you get comfortable with this, you can finally move on to learning how to juggle the 4-ball fountain. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up that 4th ball, and you're going to throw just one of them. That. And then you're going to throw 2 of them. 3. And then finally, we're going to try to throw all 4 of the balls. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And you want to make sure all the throws are in the fountain shape. So you want to make sure they're not straight like that. You want to make sure they all go in the fountain shape, and you again want to make sure that imaginary line. You want to make sure none of the balls cross it, and they each stay in the same way. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can also try doing the sync. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That 1, 2, 3, 4. So practice doing that ball. Sync, sync, until you get really comfortable with doing that. Once you get comfortable, for async, you can add a 5th throw. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for sync, you can't really add a 5th throw. So you're just going to add a 6th throw. So you're going to go 2, 4, 6, like that. And once you get comfortable with that, then you can add a 6th throw for the async. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and so on and so forth for both the sync and the async fountain until eventually you can do the async fountain, and eventually you'll be able to do the sync fountain. So congratulations, now you can do both the async and the sync fountain. This is a really impressive trick that will definitely impress all your friends. Now this is the troubleshooting section of the video where I'm going to cover some of the issues you guys might be facing when you're trying to learn how to juggle 4 balls. So one of the first issues is hesitation. So when you're juggling 4 balls, you might start hesitating to throw the balls, and it might turn the cascade into looking something like that. Or it could also even turn the async fountain into the sync fountain because you're hesitating, and then eventually it turns into the sync fountain. So you want to make sure you don't hesitate. And it's okay to go back to some of the previous drills. So if you're having trouble doing the 4-ball fountain like that, you can go back and try working on doing 2 in each hand. So if you're having trouble with hesitation, you can go back to the previous drills and even just practice that specific issue. So if you're having trouble hesitating after 4 or 5 catches, then just practice doing 4 or 5 catches without hesitating really cleanly. Practice doing it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And instead of just skipping to going as many throws as you can and try hesitating, just go one by one until eventually you feel comfortable. And once you get to a certain amount of throws and you feel comfortable and you're not hesitating, you can move on and just go for as long as you can. Now the next issue you guys might be facing is you're not throwing all the balls at the same height and speed. So for example, if you're doing the async fountain, but then you suddenly throw one ball a little bit higher, if you want to keep doing the async fountain, it's going to eventually turn into the sync fountain. So you want to make sure when you're doing the fountain, you throw all the balls at the exact same height. So when you're doing the 2-ball drill, you want to make sure that all the balls are going at the same height. So you don't want to go like that. You want to make sure all the balls are going at the same height. And you also want to make sure when you do the right hand, you practice it at the same height as the left hand. So if you practice the left hand like this, and you practice the right hand like this, when you combine them, it's going to get really weird because you're used to throwing the balls in your right hand higher than the left hand. So you want to make sure when you're practicing, you throw the balls in the right hand at the same height as the balls in the left hand. And you want to make sure that not only do you throw the balls at the same height, but at the same speed. So if you throw one hand faster, like this, than the other hand, it can turn into really rushed. So you want to make sure you throw it at the same speed and at a comfortable speed. So you don't have to throw it really fast like this. You can just be comfortable at this speed. And you also, another common issue is that the balls will cross. So you might be running into issues where you're juggling, but then the balls cross and then they start hitting each other. So you want to make sure they stay very separate. So when you're practicing, you can go back to that 3-ball trail. Maybe in the 3-ball trail, it's going too close, but then you move on to the 4-ball drill. So you want to make sure that the balls aren't crossing the middle. So it's okay to go back to the previous exercises and work on juggling 2 balls in each hand without them crossing, and then juggling 3 balls like this without them crossing the middle line, so that when you go back to 4, you won't run into the issue where they're crossing and then they start hitting and it goes into complete chaos. So that's the end of the troubleshooting section. When you're learning how to juggle 4 balls, you've got to make sure you're patient. Juggling 4 balls is a difficult skill that can take up to months to learn. So you've got to make sure you put the time and effort in every day if you want to learn how to juggle 4 balls and be really good at it. It's also better to put in 5 or 10 minutes every day of practice than put in an hour one day of the week, and then for the rest of the week don't practice. So if you really want to learn how to master 4 balls, gotta make sure you put in the time and effort and never give up. I hope you guys enjoyed my tutorial on how to juggle 4 balls, and I really hope that you learn how to juggle 4 balls from my tutorial. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.